Conversations from the Cave is a raw self-help podcast dedicated to discussing men's issues. From pornography to parenting, from religion to real life, from learning to loving. We discuss the real issues that affect real men every day. Join us each week for powerful, revealing Conversations from the Cave. Now your host, Kurt Kennedy.
This is Conversations from the Cave, and I am your host, Kurt Kennedy. It's a pleasure each and every Sunday to be welcomed into your space through the power of digital media. And this week, as per usual, we are hanging out in the cave with two fine gentlemen. To my left, Nola. And Nola, can you check in for us, please?
This is Nola73. Meet you where you at.
And to my right, we have Mustang. Mustang, can you chime in for us, sir?
Hey, this is Mustang. I was excited to be here, guys.
Before the show, we actually had a different topic set up for tonight, but we got to talking, as we often do, before the actual taping starts. And we decided we're going to flip the script a little bit and do something just completely different. And here's what we started with. I shared that I really respect Mustang's work ethic when it comes to doing his voiceover. And I'm going to have to study at his feet, and I considered his mastery of this particular area of professional study, pretty impressive. And he said, what did you say?
Well, no, I said I didn't feel like I was a professional or any kind of amazing guru that you should study at my feet.
And my response to that was, you're eating from it. So that means you're obviously doing something right.
We don't get it anywhere else. That's it.
Yeah. At the end of the day, taking advice, and that's what the topic of today's discussion, how to screen the constructive and destructive criticism you receive from people. Because I think a lot of times when we go through life, a lot of times we take in a lot of data. We take in a lot of data because we either respect people or we admire people. We sometimes take in a lot of information from people simply because of the place they hold in our hearts. Our parents and so on and so forth, so into us. But we started talking about a revelation. And I shared that I had a person in my life who said, a very, very good friend, sat me down one day, and I was really kind of frustrated because I had been talking to some different friends and I was trying to make some inroads and grow my particular business. And I was just asking for some input from my friends. And this person said, look at the friends that you're asking for advice and look to see if they are doing what you would like to do. And if they are not doing what you would like to do, then why consider advice from people who have no skill set? You would know more than they would. Now, this was unsettling to me because I had always had my crew of confidants. But the realization of that truth all of a sudden changed the way that I looked at every other interaction. And so we got to talking about this. And, I guess the question is, we each had an experience where we had to start talking about it. And Mustang, you started sharing. Do you want to share something similar to that experience or the experience? Carefully worded.
I'll carefully word it.
There you go.
They're in because they're in the neighborhood. But long story short, I mean, for me, and this is no disrespect to anybody at all, but long story short, just a lady came to my door. She was selling some of her products to my wife, some like healthcare products, things like that, or attempting to sell them to my wife. And one of the things that she was selling was some kind of like energy drink or something like that. And so anyway, when she was done talking to my wife didn't buy anything, but when she was done talking to my wife came and said, oh, this lady was selling this cool energy drink. She gave me a free packet to try out. And I was like, awesome. I was like, let me ask you anything before we even go any further. I was like, did she say that she uses her own product? And she was like, yeah, she said she drinks it all the time and that, it's great for busy moms and kids. I said, okay. And this is supposed to be a healthcare product, help you get skinnier, whatever the case is. I was like, was she skinny? She was like, no. I was like, okay, then I don't want to buy it. Now, the reason I said that was because I'm sorry, but if I want advice on how to become a millionaire, I need to talk to a millionaire. If I want advice on how to become skinny, I need to talk to somebody who has become skinny. Now, that's the same issue from someone who was always skinny and never was big. If you walk up to me and say, hey, listen, I got a revolutionary idea to help you make you skinny. All right, great. Well, show me your fat pics. Show me where you lost all the weight. Well, I've never lost any weight. I've always been 150 pounds soaking wet. Well, then I don't really want to take the advice that you've got because you haven't ever been through, the journey as we were talking about. So anyway, that's my personal.
So yeah, I mean, I think that there is a truism there. We didn't get, it was funny, Nola stayed very quiet through this whole discussion. And so this is going to be the first time we actually hear what Nola's thinking about this exchange. do you want to tell us what are your thoughts about that, Nola? Do you agree? Do you think that there's room for, what do you think? What are your thoughts?
Well, as I sit back and I listen to the both of you guys, I definitely agree. However, I have my own experience. And one of the things I try to do is keep it real with the world. And in my situation, my wife and I are going through a trying time. And when you go out and people see and notice the things that's going on, they notice the confusion, the disruption, they tend to want to add their advice. And my question is the same thing. Have you been here? Have you walked in my shoes? Have you walked in her shoes? If you haven't been there, then there's nothing you can really say to me. Now, I do understand that you can give advice, but you haven't been there to tell me that everything is going to be okay. You never been to where you was ready to strangle. You never been to where you was ready to walk or bounce. So don't tell me that everything is going to be okay. At the end of the day, I know it's going to be okay because we're both two intelligent adults. We're not here to harm one another, but we do sit down and rationalize with the decision that we have to make, the tough decision, the complicated decision. However, we're in it. Y'all are not. So I definitely agree with both of y'all guys.
Well, and let's add another. I should probably soften our comments just a little bit. And I think both of us have, well, maybe all of us have become a little bit jaded with this notion of people who are very free and willing to tell you how to get your life right. And a lot of people that I, used to have as friends. Well, I should back up just a little bit. Once I made the connection between the truth that if someone isn't doing what it is they claim to help you with, and they're not able to help you with that, then don't seek advice from them on that particular topic. So what I ended up doing is I looked very carefully at my group of friends and confidants, and then I began to cull that list. And by choosing to cull that list, I began to start looking for people and fill that time with people that, instead of trying to get them to journey upon my path or to have them provide input upon my path, let them find their own path. And then I find people who are already on a similar journey. So what I had been sharing is that this process or this revelation brought me to a decision. It brought me to a decision to empty my life of those energy draining, folks, that were either providing maybe what they thought was constructive criticism, but may not have been very, very helpful. Just cull those and then bring into your life people who, when they say something, it actually does benefit you. And I think that the same energy that it takes to cultivate relationships, and sometimes less, with people who are already going in the direction you're going. I think as men, we oftentimes, hold our friends close and sometimes our enemies closer. But, I think we devote a lot of time to sharing and trying to work through things when the energy could be better spent, instead of talking with somebody else about it, just doing it. If you talk to someone who's busy trying to tell you, I was starting a media company, a couple years back, and I was talking to some different guys, and the people that I talked to, all of them, every last one of them said something that was absolutely negative. It can't be done. That was the first thing out of their mouth. It can't be done. You don't know enough about it. We know a little bit more, and we haven't been able to do anything with it, and therefore neither will you. Now, clearly that isn't the case, because here I am talking to the world right here through the power of media. So clearly what they said wasn't true. But the point of the matter was I spent so much time listening to those words of discouragement that I didn't need to. I should have spent the time, instead of trying to convince them that it was a good idea, simply don't try to convince them it's a good idea. Believe it's a good idea. Take the effort that you are spending talking to them ad nauseum on the telephone and do exactly what it is you believe is the thing that you think you can do. And there was one comment that one of the guys made to me, and he said, I think you should do such and such. And I said, why? He says, because I know so-and-so said this. And I said, well, is so-and-so eating from what they, from this? In other words, if they're doing what it is that I'm supposedly trying to go do, are they eating from it? Have they produced enough to where they are actually eating from it? And the answer was no. And just like Mustang's health comment, I don't want to hear about that. I don't want to hear anything about anybody who's not doing it to a level where they can actually eat from it. So if I hear an entrepreneur tell me, I'm selling some quackery, then if you're not eating from the quackery that you're selling, then I don't want to hear anything about it. And I know that sounds really curt and short and not too nice, but I think that was liberating. And when I heard, it was Oprah. When I heard Oprah say, and I very rarely, I don't watch her shows or anything, but this happened to be a Facebook thing. And it came across and it says, the time that you devote to and all the energy that you try to, share your vision with people while they're busy discouraging you on your vision path, it could be better spent just shutting up and working on the vision, and don't tell anybody. Just finish it. Just do it. Do it, finish it, go on, let it become a reality. And then those people who believe in your vision will be there with your vision, and they will walk into that reality when you step into it. But people who are not prepared for that are going to spend more time criticizing, going to spend more time judging, going to spend that kind of time. So, when you call your friends, most people don't want to call friends because it's very difficult for introverts in particular to make new friends. But I think it's important to recognize that sometimes your friends are not doing you any favors. They could be the thing that's draining your energy to becoming your best you. They're energy drainers. I'm sorry. I meant to cut. What do you think about?
I'm right there with you. It's funny you say that because there's two sides of that coin too. Especially I want to talk to as guys that we have a problem with. And it's interesting. So you do what you do, which is you have a very special practice that you work in, very specialized. And in me, I have something I do that not a ton of people do. It's a competitive industry, but it's just not nearly as competitive as the average everyday job. And I believe, Nola, you've written a book, correct? A book or a few books or something like that?
Yeah.
Yes, I have. So I'm ready to jump on that.
Oh, okay, yeah. So this is the other end of that, and I know he's probably got something corresponding to the first part, but this is the other end. Whenever you are in the presence of somebody that knows what they're talking about, you finally find that person that's eating from it.
Yeah.
I hate to say this, but I've got to say it, and this is probably the most blunt you'll ever hear me say it. Shut up.
Yeah.
Don't talk.
Listen.
If I am trying to figure out how to get a book published, and Nola saying, hey, listen, all right, these are the steps. I'm like, oh, yeah, you know what? Back in the day, I wrote in geometry class, I wrote this book, and I remember stapling it together. Oh, it was so great. And he's like, yeah, okay, so back to, the public. Now, this is what you do. These are the steps. Oh, yeah, I used to have a publisher, but my publisher, I fired my publisher. Just hush and listen to the man. He's given you advice. He's given you wisdom, and he's done it. He's been there. Yes. That's something I cannot stress enough. For my personal one, I've been very, very blessed to learn how to produce demos and to get agents. That's an agent. Getting one agent is a very difficult thing. And I've gotten anywhere from about 8 to 10. And for people, all over the U.S. And whenever somebody comes in, how do you get an agent? All they want to do is talk about how they don't have an agent.
Right.
And I'm like, if you give me a second, I can tell you exactly how I got an agent.
Right.
Anyway, so that when we do finally get to the other end, we find someone who's eating from, like you said, what they do or paying the bills. Let's just listen.
Yeah. And I want to go to Nola, before he forgets his thought. But, you make such a great point. And, a lot of times when you hear someone reciting why they don't have what it is that they desire to have, that is usually the individual